This FM 104.3. Good to meet you.
And yes, answer me touch us time no the amount.
Mate.
Charles the million no made Marcus me manankasa.
Mate. He's become the second benevolent dictator.
No much else in Kasa.
On me never come grandson of
Also for Kasa.
Now, Obeka last week me can say na me gusu yenhwehwem. And that sabi nyoma say dear me when it comes to issues that border on the economy, revenue mobilization, and anything that has to do with either injections or leakages, me too me bo enya ehun kratansa na metimi aka ho asem because sabi juma internet aba you obeka na no ochina you be held responsible for your uka na ndra nti. Usually I like to take my time, ask some questions and look for the answers to those questions. Until last week I said Nchibia maybe and I've been able to find some answers to the questions I posed both online and even in this studio. Nedi kai maminga se mampinyi me bona basuba message in huya at the same time.
Are
me bona bosu say why extend the KPMG more time no. I said it last week say so more time 2 weeks no so they should make a request for extension and on my and the president was graceful enough to do sa extension and I granted them sa extension. But near me one say GRA 4 omo no ma SML 4 sa contract no.
Sure.
And they know Juma SML 4 AD momo. Now if they are asking say as the audit is ongoing no yes real ma omo nkoso nyo mo ejuma kopim time audit no be wie extension no enya dia that's going to take forever by 23rd of February no mo wie 1 month extension sabi emaga nungu and funny say the refusal to grant their request funny say if it turns out say juma no mo ye no was actually correct saving Ghana. The revenue that would have lost, who should we hold responsible? And is he willing and ready?
Mental honasi echiremu.
Mamin chiremu. GRA 4. And member ho nienti a GRA 4 kra eka said they need a third party service. Revenue assurance ya dia they do all the time. Revenue assurance monitoring. That is the only way betima catch on who said this tax handler yedi share ye mremu no onkrofo is omu tua sa to no omu tua ne yi and that we are getting the requisite volumes of and our receipts tax receipts na say nya every tax handle mu no untimi nkyere unless you do monitoring every revenue assurance monitoring nti ya dia GRA 4 they need is a need they have what is here but omuna ombetimi aka and ombetimi aka chere say when it comes to this area yen shada nya deal with respect to revenue collection until ye pese revenue assurance monitoring what is here baby corporate income tax for example enya dia omu here because it is easy to tell and our personal income tax who ye juma edima aban ana company bia no ketua ye tua wo no they know and it is easy to do the income tax deductions and they may not need a third party service to do revenue assurance monitoring. What is here? But there are areas be a demand. And that need is very important. And this is not the first time. Maybe has them. But near me can say, near Mampenina ye almost say Juma Jerry for the almost our contract no. And almost say Yajitum say all this need the name in the meantime, Momon Cosunyo Mojuma. We see there be a moment you and you mejuma. And if there is any revenue lost between the time of the cessation of omokon or mejuma, any the time I be we audit no. Now it turns out say Juma no muye no ampa was actually helping in the revenue assurance arrangement GRA 4 epeno. Who should we hold responsible for sa revenue no? Is the president ready and willing for us to hold him accountable for any revenue lost within that time no? And every and any revenue yenya is very very important. Nentia ye ho achia aye ye ho hwe enye yenu. And say we do not have enough revenue to fund sometimes some of the unplanned expenditures are Mampini any Naswafo are engaged in. No. There was a time at every 10, the president was making a promise, and every presidential promise comes with a cost. Cost no so a sikasem. What I say, every revenue is important. Na Namika say, me born abasu for the extension of KPMG mu time no, but me didn't who say GRA 4 or mu team no. That's the agency that works, that is responsible for our revenue collection. And they have a governing board. Just said the president does not even see Sebi. Say board now you are constituting all representatives on our board no. They are competent enough to make a certain decision. This is even an indictment on the entire GRA and his board. And me say no no. But yembra the main issues, one of which I maybe say last week, and he say GRA 4 no more the need for the service that the contracted SML to offer now. And I can tell you on authorities and say GRA conducted a needs assessment. And they came to the conclusion say when it comes to the petroleum downstream, no, they do not have the capacity to do real-time monitoring. Now, who say the volumes of petroleum that are traded, any tax, one say there is this idea of a special petroleum tax that is charged on petroleum products in the downstream. GRA 4, Juma said they should do the collection of that tax. No? Every tax in this country, Omuna eso omuji sa tax. No? Until the special petroleum tax now, there are two products, petroleum products. No? Omuna eso omuji. But they have a difficulty in getting real-time data. Because where, you see, SAT taxi is volumes driven. The quantity of tax you collect is volumes driven and is based on the volumes of petroleum products that are traded. And if they come to tell you, say, for this particular day and at this particular week, petroleum products are yedidi dwanye. GRA is unable to tell whether near catch no nukre and as a nukre. They only rely on the meters at the depots. And yen na sabi. Mumanka nukre yenim ni ekos or manga mu. Yetiminya meters nanso obitimi tina baby eye ni obeye. So GRA on its own no any mechanism bia that would fact check the reported volumes from the depots no meters no. And they needed is I can say obia na entity bia ewonim dia any the technology to do some real-time monitoring. So that umbetimi aka say between the volumes traded and quoted for them no eno mo ankasa omo independent reading no ebuebra na say embuebra and ebuebra what is the differential and how much are they losing? I'll just give you an example.
Just a snappy one.
GRA contracted Ernst & Young in 2020 in June, somewhere in June 2020 to do stock reconciliation. Said the stocks that are reported to GRA are on the basis of which you calculate your special petroleum tax no. Any indeed the true stocks now no. When they did the reconciliation, Mami, let me just share some information with you. It became obvious, say, there were differentials. There were differences between the reported and the actuals. And at the end of the day, they were losing millions of Ghana cedis. Just between the reported stocks, any the real stocks, the actual stocks, they were losing millions. And the Omka said, look, if we are losing money, and that is the essence of revenue assurance, so that you are able to tell whether there are gaps and that the amount of taxes is so unya and our revenue unya exactly and I say Sabi you are losing. And when we conduct this stock reconciliation, they realized that there were stock losses. And stock losses, like I said, such special petroleum tax is volumes driven. Until once there are losses, it means your tax receipts are also going to dwindle. And when you now and other, sometimes differences between near OMC's for no air reporting and in near MPA, so air how do you even reconcile the differences in the volumes as reported by OMCs and you can say reported by MP in Nasifo. Until GRA says, look, when you now amounts to losses for us, losses in terms of revenue, until we have a mechanism in place to make sure say we are able to deal with this problem. And Nakofa SML buy. And Ghana for ETIAS says this is not the first time GRA is doing revenue assurance monitoring. When it came to communication service tax, the VAT on communication, they had a similar problem. No one need the technology, the equipment, and the personnel to be able to do real-time monitoring, so that in every minute, this is the volume of call traffic. Ghana for a year, on the basis of which I will calculate communication service tax VAT on communication. Until they needed obi my revenue assurance monitoring. And no cover super info solutions by. What is here? Until a man I've heard stories Jerry 4 could do it themselves. Look, if they could, who told you?
Atik, Yanfa bin Shefriji.
Minya shas yampoyo.
There be Amazon. Yanfa bin.
What the mammy for we envy. Until say Ghana for NTS revenue assurance is a need. But what remains to be determined and say which area na GRA for our capacity challenges. No marker say I had here yentimi. And this thing about minerals, I am somebody who is into sustainable development, and I spoke to you about resource-based development and as for. Look, the royalty we are getting from minerals revenues are companies are or mining. The royalty we get from their revenues, no, and also volumes driven. And if they come to tell you, say, oh, we sold just 10 ounces and 10 kilos of gold, and GRA has no way of independently verifying. No. And Kahuna say the more royalty you make depends on the value of revenue. And revenue also is dependent on the volume.
Next week,
no problem.
Why?
Mati.
Over.
With the watch me, but then Wadaruma.
Over 6 FM 104.3. Good to meet